Hopefully the final take. Let's start again. Okay, so excuse the mess. I'm currently doing a lot of projects and I've got currently 3 computers all at once, all at work. So as you can see, I'm very busy, including this bad boy, which will be in a future project, which I hope you watch. I recently posted a video called Trying to Master Loma Chrome Purple, a divisive film stock in the film community. I was using a program called Dehancer. Now, Dehancer reached out to me after I'd already come up with the idea and after I was already using Dehancer in the video, and they wanted to sponsor me because they'd seen some of my other videos. And well, that's great. I'm not really for sponsorships, and I won't really take sponsorships in the future if I ever have this channel or another channel blow up, partly because I just like my independence. But that being said, I actually own Dehancer. My partner Ching actually bought it for me for my birthday, and it is an expensive program, I'm not gonna lie. And she bought it for my birthday because that's what I wanted. So them reaching out to me and saying, hey, do you want to talk about our product, isn't all so much a sponsorship if I already use the product. It was something that I'm more aware of. But in the video, I showed how I used their program to emulate Loma Chrome Purple, not to actually create artwork, but to go ahead and test a bunch of different scenes with a digital camera, run it through the film emulator, and then have an idea of what colors are going to transition with that film stock because it swaps colors, and see if what I was going to photograph later on my more expensive cameras was actually going to be worthy of being shot and actually coming out with a good photograph. So that's what I did, and I showed a little excerpt in that video. But I don't think that fully captures what Dehancer can do. Now, there are other videos about Dehancer. Hunter Creates Everything's got a really good video. I think his name is Nick Paletti. He's a really funny guy. He's got a really good video on that one. But they don't capture everything that I think you would probably need to know or I've experienced. And my video probably won't capture everything that you've experienced if you do end up using this program. So just keep that in mind. I just thought I would add some extra conversation into that discussion about using this program. So on probably my last 15 videos that I've made, I've used Dehancer. It has some pros, it has some cons. I'll go over them all. So the first thing you should know about this program is it's an emulation program, but there's no such thing as a true film look. Now, we can sometimes tell the difference between film and digital, but that's not always true. And there's plenty of tests out there that have kind of proven this, so just keep this in mind. There's no true film look. However, one of the things that the program does in the first place to give you a film look is to go ahead and insert grain. Grain changes per frame in actual film, and what this program tries to emulate is that grain changing and moving. Now, that's great, but one thing I would note is that it can be distracting. And what I mean by can be distracting is that when you go onto the video, like I'm doing right now, and then you look at the grain, now in the small little screen it's not as distracting, but if I go ahead and put this large up, now all of a sudden you can see quite a bit of noise. And that is problematic. Now the reason why this is it has a default profile on the film. I think it might change every film emulation, but generally it is this 250 ISO for 35mm. I think the grain that they emulate is still a little big for 250 ISO and 35mm. A little way too grainy to me. I would say it looks more like an 800 speed film grain size than it would look like 250. So just FYI, Dehancer, I don't know how you guys calculated that out, but just from my observation, it does look a little bit too much. But that's easy enough sorted. I did notice that on some of my previous videos that looking back at them, I was probably abusing the grain size a little bit. I didn't realize how strong the grain was because I had the small shrunk down screen, and I never usually view my videos in full screen. So if you don't like that grain being so upfront, I would recommend actually shrinking it down. And the way to do that is to choose a different grain size. So in the case of the video here, I found the Lomochrome emulation a little too strong on the grain size. So what did I do? I went ahead and I went down to the grain size and I changed it to 65mm at ISO 50. And then if we just go full screen for a second and not have my computer lag, you can see the grain size shrink down. However, on the next clip, it looks like it is still set at 35. So if I was to go change that now, put it to there, it's now not as strong. And if we go into the clip, 100%, yes, it still has grain, and as they say in the film community, grain is good. Now it's not too strong, now it's not too overpowered. So just keep that in mind, that with this program it has quite a large grain size, and that may be too much for you. Sometimes it's great, especially I like the look of creating an 8mm looking film if I'm shooting a gig or something like that. But there are times where too much grain can actually be distracting. So what you can do is change the grain size, and that's a really cool feature. I like the fact that they've gone to so much detail to give you so many different grain sizes. You can go ahead and get 500 at 8mm, and that is definitely different to 500 ISO at 16mm, simply because of resolution and scale. So just keep that in mind if you don't want too much grain, to go ahead and change the settings. So if you want to see that Lomochrome purple excerpt, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the video in just a moment, but I'm also going to put a little timestamp if you want to skip it in case you've already seen it or you just don't care.
Now usually I experiment with film and just film, and don't use digital for testing. But as I'd given my other 35mm roll to Ching, and I had Dehancer, which has what I would say is a pretty spot on emulation of Lomo Purple, as you can see by my video. Full disclosure, Dehancer reached out to me after I'd already come up with this idea, so I thought I'd show this little excerpt. I don't really like the idea of sponsorships, but this is actually a program that I actually got as a birthday present for myself by my partner. I thought I'd show you how I use this program and why you might want to use Dehancer too. I loaded the photos into Final Cut Pro, which is my main video editor. I then went ahead and added the Dehancer app plugin. Then I chose the Lomochrome film profile, which is set at a base profile of about 100, I believe. Then I tweaked the settings just to get the film to look how I would want it to look, or how it would be scanned possibly by a lab. I used this film emulation because 1, I wanted to see as a comparison, but 2, I didn't want to spend any more money on shooting any more rolls. I already had 2 rolls planned on the Fujica 617 and the Mamiya C220. Going out and shooting with a digital camera to give yourself an idea, and then shooting with film later on to get something that you are really after, whether it be on a particular format, isn't something that should be frowned upon, especially if a film stock is particularly difficult. If you like the idea of Dehancer, I recommend the free trial. If you want to purchase it, use this promo link here, which is down in the description below.
One of the things I really like about this program is it's more than just trying to add noise on top. I've had others that I've bought where basically you are grabbing a bunch of clips and then manipulating them on. They'll add in grain that you have to kind of merge in on top, or flashes, or other, products that sit on top. But that requires you having to go add clips. It's very annoying, you don't get much control. The thing about this program that's quite unique is that you can just control so much. So if you think that the film doesn't have the right temperature look that you're looking for, you can go ahead and manipulate the temperature. You can also manipulate the tint as well. So that's just like using Photoshop or Lightroom. You can control the fringing, you can control so much. You can even push or pull the film. They actually have emulations for that. And one of my favorite parts is you can control the black point. And what this essentially means is that your darkest point, you can kind of control where that is and what that is. So if your video doesn't have the contrast in the right space, or is like mainly looking muddy, but you kind of want that contrast to come back in so it's a usable image, controlling your black point will allow you to do that. It also has a control your white point, but I don't really use that. The controlling the black point, that's really handy. You can also control your exposure, your tonal contrast, your color density, your saturation, and those are really cool. And the great thing about it is that you can actually, it does it in little blocks, so you can actually turn it on and off, and that gives you the ability to see whether it's working quite well for you. Because when you start editing, one of the biggest and hardest things that exists when editing is going, did I make the right choices? And just by clicking enabled, you can see whether you have done so or not. Now, one of the other things this program has is halation. So you can add halation in, and then halation, which is about your brightest point. So it actually tries to emulate that, what happens when something is a little too bright in film and starts spreading out. That spread is different on different film sizes. So it will go ahead and do the halation if it's got remjet or no remjet, because even if there is remjet, you can still get halation, but no remjet means you're definitely going to get halation. It does it on different film sizes. So for example, if I had a really bright piece of shot right now, let me just find one. This program is also available, I believe, on Photoshop, Lightroom. There's a mobile version. You've got the plugin in both Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, and that other one that I don't use. So one of the ways I edit my video is that I go ahead and add Dehancer to my clips, and then I can go ahead and add halation. Now, do I abuse halation? Probably a little too much, but it does give quite a cool look. So there's other effects that you can emulate. You can emulate film breath, gate weave, overscan. You can even do vignetting, but no one should touch vignetting. But what it means is that you can go ahead and add those film-like artifacts, in particular things like halation, which is not a digital thing, just to give your video a non-digital look if that's what you're going for. And that's what I'm going for, because so at the end of the day, I grew up with little Kodak point and shoot film cameras. That's what I grew up with. I was there from the transition from film to digital, and I just kind of fell out of love with cameras because of the way that digital cameras are designed. I just didn't like sitting down editing for so long. It was so exhausting. Clients just don't understand. They think they can just go ahead and grab stuff. Okay, I'm going to stop right there before I start complaining. But the point is, if I want that film look and I can't afford to go ahead and shoot everything on 16mm and 35mm film, or even 8mm film, which is like $200 New Zealand for 6 minutes, no, or 3 minutes actually, this is a great way to do this. So yesterday I had a friend call me because they were looking at getting one of their videos done on film. And the fact is, film is expensive, especially if you're going to do motion picture film. A program like Dehancer gives you that look without that cost. And for those that can't afford it, it's a good middle step. It's a good middle ground. I have a 16mm film camera, and I've currently not touched it, and I'm not going to use it for any of my YouTube videos because it's just simply cost prohibitive. A program like Dehancer is a good intermediary. When it comes to emulating anything artificially, I would say make sure you go ahead and put out there what program you've used. One, just don't gatekeep, but two, be honest that you are emulating a look, you're not actually shooting film. And when I go out to shoot my 16mm film that I've currently got sitting around, when I do get that shot, I'll state that it's clearly 16mm film, and then my stuff that I use Dehancer with, I mark that that's with Dehancer. So that's just a thing that we should all do, always be honest. So you're going to get a little bit of a sneak peek into videos that I'm shooting next year, because I've got a couple of my projects here and I'm going to show you how I have been editing some of them. So one of the first things first is I'm going to add Dehancer to this black and white clip here. Now it's going to try put on this film profile. So it has put on Kodak Vision 250D, that's its default. Now I don't want the film profile, but I want the grain, and there's a reason why. There's a really good video out there that says why our eyes like grain. I'll go ahead and find it at some point and put it in the description below. But essentially, when you have grain, it gives a bit more like motion to the image, and with this video clip in particular, I want to add some grain, but I don't want to go ahead and put Dehancer's coloring on there in this instance. I'm just happy enough just to add the grain, and I'm happy enough with the black and white preset that I've already got for this video. So what I've done now is I've got the film grain profile here, and that's all I'm adding. So that's something else you can do with this program, is just add film grain if you've already done your coloring, because I do actually color some of my videos myself, or at least I used to before I started using Dehancer to an abusive degree. But if you're one of those people that likes to do their own coloring, and maybe you're not happy with the way that Dehancer colors with its film emulations, one thing you can do is just use this program to emulate grain, to emulate halation, blooming, film damage, etc., but not have to go ahead and just use their color profiles. You don't have to. That's one of the great things about this program, is that you can just turn on and off different features that you want to use. So I have this program on both Premiere Pro and Final Cut. I don't use Premiere Pro as much as I do Final Cut for editing. It's basically the same thing with Dehancer and how it looks. One of the things that I haven't figured out how to do yet is go ahead and save presets inside Premiere Pro. At some point I'll do that, but currently I just use Final Cut Pro for most of my video editing, partly because I just know how to save presets. One of the cool things that Dehancer really has going for it is it has a range of emulations, like an extreme amount. Everything from your Fuji Velvia to Fuji Color 400 and 100, which have recently gone extinct. Well, Velvia has too, to really odd film stocks that generally were limited runs, like Adox Color Implosion 100. It can also do black and white film stocks like Ilfit XP2, but it can also do modern film stocks like Kodak Ekta 100. I do think it's a little bit green for that film stock. So if I was going to screw it up, probably make it a little bit more orange and I don't know, something like that. But that's just me. Like I said, there's no such thing as a true film color. Different film scanners will go ahead and get different colors. So just keep that in mind with all these film emulations, is that they are a palette of colors. Different colors will look differently in different lightings on different setups. So just keep that in mind. But the range here is quite spectacular, to say the least, and that it includes different grain sizes, which is really important, as I said before, about different grains. So what this means is that you've got a wide range of looks. For someone like myself, that's great, because that means that I can make sure that my videos feel fresh. And then what I do is that once I've got my effect here, I click Save Effect Preset, and then that means that it's now saved, and I give it a name, and I have particular looks and particular ones that I will call upon and add to my videos. So pretty much a good portion of my gig videos will use this 800T no zoom, and then some of them will use a slightly zoomed in look, and that's what I do. And then some of my videos, I want this Adox look to them, and that's what I add. I add that Adox look. That means I can quickly call upon different looks very quickly and create my own recipes, essentially, because that's what this kind of is. It's just different recipes based on what their program is trying to emulate, and that's really cool. And that's one of the reasons why I was quite happy with my purchase. If you've got more questions about Dehancer, I'm happy to take those questions in the comments below. Otherwise, you can just reach out to them. They will go ahead and answer your questions. Overall, I think this is a great program. I do want them to shrink the grain size down a little bit, but like I said, you can do that yourself for the most part, and that's just a personal matter of taste. If I did have to ask Dehancer to make one thing, and I think his Granny Days would say, can we have an Aerochrome? That's the one emulation that is missing from this package. So, as always, it's been real, guys. Until next time. But yeah, Ectochrome infrared. We want it. Oh, and whilst you're at it, maybe a Kodak HIE as well. But that's mainly because I've got some Kodak HIE